Let's see how your answers compared to what the Harvard students answered in this case.
Your hand. How many wouldn't? Most people wouldn't. Here's the obvious question. What became of the principle? Better to save 5 lives even if it means sacrificing one. What became of the principle that almost everyone endorsed in the first case? I need to hear from someone who was in the majority in both cases. How do you explain the difference between the two? Yes.
The second one, I guess, involves an active choice of pushing the person down, which I guess that person himself would otherwise not have been involved in this situation at all. And so to choose on his behalf, I guess, to involve him in something that he otherwise would have escaped is, I guess, more than what you have in the first case, where the three parties, the driver and the two sets of workers are already, I guess, in the situation.
But the guy working, the one on the track off to the side, he didn't choose to sacrifice his life any more than the fat man did he?
That's true, but he was on the tracks. And you...
This guy was on the bridge. Go ahead, you can come back if you want. All right, it's a hard question. All right, you did well. You did very well. It's a hard question. Who else can find a way of reconciling the reaction of the majority in these two cases? Yes.
Well, I guess in the first case where you have the one worker and the 5, it's a choice between those two, and you have to make a certain choice, and people are going to die because of the trolley car, not necessarily because of your direct actions. The trolley car is a runaway thing, and you're making a split-second choice, whereas pushing the fat man over is an actual act of murder on your part. You have control over that, whereas you may not have control over the trolley car. So I think it's a slightly different situation.
All right, who has a reply? No, that's good. Who has a way, who wants to reply? Is that a way out of this?
I don't think that's a very good reason, because you choose to, it's either way you have to choose who dies, because you either choose to turn and kill the person, which is an active conscious thought to turn, or you choose to push the fat man over, which is also an active conscious action. So either way you're making a choice.
Do you want to reply?
Well, I'm not really sure that that's the case. It just still seems kind of different, the act of actually pushing someone over onto the tracks and killing him. You are actually killing him yourself.
You're pushing him with your own hands.
You're pushing him. And that's
Right.
different than steering something that is going to cause death into another. You know, it doesn't
good.
really sound right saying it now.
No, it's good.
But I'm up here.
It's good. What's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew. Let me ask you this question, Andrew.
Yes.
Suppose standing on the bridge next to the fat man, I didn't have to push him. Suppose he were standing over a trap door that I could open by turning a steering wheel like that. Would you turn?
For some reason, that still just seems more wrong.
Right?
I mean, maybe if you accidentally leaned into the steering wheel or something like that. But or say that the car is hurtling towards a switch that will drop the trap. Then I could agree with that.
Fair enough. It still seems wrong in a way that it doesn't seem wrong in the first case to turn, you say.
And in another way, I mean, in the first situation, you're involved directly with the situation. In the second one, you're an onlooker as well.
All right.
So you have the choice of...
We see what the Harvard students have had to say, and nobody had a particularly good explanation of why, in this case, it was just very different. And in fact, the explanations probably weren't rather different from the ones that you have given. But I think one thing that's interesting is it's clear that the dominant position now is not to throw the fat man off the bridge. The principle of, you sacrifice one to save many just went out the window, and the question is, why has it gone out the window? And I would suggest that there's an argument that might explain this, and that argument can be summarized as follows. And I call this argument the "don't throw the fat man off the bridge" argument. And the first premise is, it's just wrong to murder a person, regardless of what the utility is. Second premise is, throwing the fat man off the bridge would be an act of murder, would be murdering a person. Therefore, the right thing to do is not to throw the fat man off the bridge. Now, this kind of argument probably underlies a lot of what you're thinking. But notice, utilitarianism cannot use an argument like this. Now, I should mention that Professor Sandel goes on to discuss an involuntary transplant patient example. But he's talking about probably at this point kind of issues where utilitarianism fits, where it doesn't. But for us, at least in our course, we're now seeing that, well, there are some significant issues that somebody's going to have to deal with who is going to defend utilitarianism.